Give me an example of some of these federal agencies that you would abolish.
Well, the first one I would abolish is the Department of Education. It has no reason to exist. Okay. It is a cancer. It's an example of the cancerous federal bureaucracy. But a lot of people talk about the rise of wokeism and critical race theory in schools and so on. Here's what they don't know. The invisible fist behind this isn't the invisible hand of the free market. It's the invisible fist of the federal government that provides funding. But as a condition for receiving funding, you have to adopt these toxic ideologies. Well, guess what? We have thousands of bureaucrats when the federal government doesn't run our schools that still need to find work to do. What do? They try to make up stuff that they really shouldn't be doing in the first place, but to justify their own existence. Now, I think this is also a big part of the problem with respect to the way the Department of Education gives out money. They tilt the scales in favor of four-year college education, even when the market is repeatedly suggesting that many of those four-year degree programs are really just a scam, where people, at least as of numbers that are 5 to 8 years old, half of those people or more, a majority, will not be able to earn a job paying $25,000 or more under certain circumstances. And so that's a scam, but the Department of Education creates it because they subsidize certain forms of education while not subsidizing somebody who wants to do a 2-year program to become a welder. So I think a lot of the problems upstream trace to the fact that we have thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people in a department who literally are working to advance an agenda from a department that shouldn't even exist. And so I think a lot of presidents, President Trump included, try incremental reform, put a different figurehead on top, tell them and give them a mandate to reform it. But when an agency's become so cancerous within, there's only one right answer left. You shut it down. And I think that's what I intend to do as president, not just for the Department of Education. That's just the first, but probably taking, double-digit numbers of federal agencies and literally shutting the door, taking the keys, locking the front door and tossing it in the Potomac. That's the level of actual reform. And then some of them, if they're for functions that still need to exist, you build new ones built from scratch to take their place. That's exactly how you take on a managerial cancer. Incremental reform is not enough. And I think this is an uncomfortable topic, but I think it's true. That applies to a lot of the national security apparatus in this country too, that needs to be truly drained and then something else rebuilt to take its place because the existing bureaucracies have gotten so rotten, so cancerous that incremental reform isn't going to do the job.
What about the FBI? Would you shut that down?
I'm strongly inclined to shut down the FBI, and we're going to and replace it with something new to take its place. But I think that's going to be necessary. That is a cancerous rot. That's a 60-year-old problem. Actually, yes, it was a problem under Trump, but it's been a problem for a lot longer of a time. An agency that looks to the person who's elected to run the federal government, the president of the United States, as an inconvenience. I don't think that's the way that an administrative state should actually look at the leader who's elected by the people of this country to run it. They should look to them as their boss. And you know what? If somebody works for you, I come from the private sector. I can tell you this from firsthand personal leadership experience. If someone's working for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It means you work for them. It means you are their slave, actually, because you're responsible for what they do without having any power to control it. That's really the relationship between the president of the United States and the FBI today. I'm sorry to say. I intend to end it.